Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of ASMA, a leading community in academia, I, Chandan Anand, Vice President of InnoSub Group and ASMA, welcome everybody in today's exciting forum of the Digital Campus on Cloud for Education, powered by Colpool and also supported by Extra Edge as our associate partner. ExtraEdge is an admission and marketing automation software for education industry. Many of them are aware of it. We know ExtraEdge since so long. Many higher education institutes would be aware. We are developing knowledge sharing platform and networking platform with who's who from the industry, creating opportunities for collaborations between academia and corporate. A virtual event series, 1.5 months old. This is the webinar series we started 1.5 months prior, focusing on universities and higher education institutes, focusing different zones and geographic locations of India. Today, we have educators and academicians from leading institutions of North India. We also understand that even these leading educational institutes were caught off guard and faced numerous challenges as they have adapted to education in the new normal. Institutions that boldly faced the disruption and were quick to adopt technological innovations and have been able to stabilize and bounce back quickly as the pandemic unfolded. We will be hearing more from them as how they sailed off this difficult phase of transformed challenges into opportunities. This virtual knowledge sharing interaction will explore how technology can harness to change the face of education in new age post-pandemic world. The deliberation will help us understand the role of digital marketing and admission technology and how these leading institutions have adopted new age education and digital transformation in the pandemic era. We are thrilled to inform that the webinar got overwhelming response and participation from across the country. We are glad that your participation as listeners, as attendees, as speakers, and as partners. We are really, really thankful to all of you. Let me introduce the panel for the day. We have an eminent speakers from different institutions from North India and a representation of a West India Institute. Dr. Atul Khosla, founder and vice chancellor, Salone University. Welcome, Atul sir, in today's forum. Dr. Sandeep Pachpande, chairman, ESM Group of Institutes. Welcome, Sandeep sir, again. Dr. Sunil Rai, vice chancellor, the University of Petroleum and Energy Studies. Welcome, Sunil sir. Professor Tabrez Ahmed, vice chancellor, GD Goenka University. Welcome, sir. And Mr. Aman Mittal, additional director, Lovely Professional University. Welcome, Aman sir. The session has been moderated by Abhishek Ballab, co-founder of Extra Edge, the moderator of this session. The session topic is the role of digital marketing and admission technology in the post-COVID era. So without wasting much time, may I please hand over the mic to Abhishek. Abhishek, please take over. Thank you.
Thank you, Chandan. It's a privilege. Few of the people who are at the part of the panel have been mentors and friends, especially people like Atul and Sandeep, and have interacted them thoroughly and enjoyed every interaction. And also have the opportunity to listen to Aman in a lot of forums. So super excited, to have a dialogue with all of you. So without further ado, let me quickly jump on to my first question, and we'll keep it as interactive as possible. What I've also asked Chandan, that for the audience, and I welcome all the 84 participants, please feel free to push your questions on the chat window or on the QA window. If you have a specific question for a particular panelist, we will make sure we take all of them at the end of the session. So we'll keep around 10-15 minutes for the questions. So starting with Sandeep sir, my first question to you, right? So we are, after the COVID, our admission season or our marketing or outreach is about to end, and we are moving on to the next season in that quick succession. And ASM Group of Institutes, as the name suggests, have a wide range of course and curriculum, from K-12 schools to B schools, BCA, MCA programs. So my question to you not is that what change. My question to you is that what are the learnings for the audience this year? What has been your top 3 biggest learnings as far as admission and outreach are concerned?
Yeah, thank you very much, Abhishek. Good to see all of you here, and thank you to ASMA for arranging this wonderful event as always. Just to correct you, Abhishek, when you say that the admission season has ended, I'm based in Pune, and in Maharashtra, we have just started the admissions of MBA and MCA. So it is just today the admissions are started. So the admission season, probably the admissions would end somewhere mid of Jan. So we are behind by around about a particular complete semester as far as our admissions in Maharashtra for the traditional courses of the universities are concerned. For the PGDM courses, yes, of course, that got over and that has started. And again, since I'm representing an institution which is into all different fields, so like for schools, it's been different. For junior colleges, there are different learnings. Let me focus a bit more on the postgraduate kind of education.
Sure.
That's where most of the, I think, focus of the forum is.
Sure.
Is that, you know, while all of us have been speaking about going digital and online, I think this is the time where everyone has understood the importance of the physical way of universities and the classroom education. I think the first question what every parent or child asks us during admissions or even now is, when can I come back on campus? When is the college going to start? And even just before the webinar started, I think that is exactly what we were discussing, that are we prepared to have our students on campus? What are we doing on campus as such? So the physical campus, of course, plays a very, very important role. Second,
Sure.
is that we have to leverage the digital platform and the technologies. I would see that a lot of more and more on adoption coming of digital technologies, not only in the marketing part, but also the delivery part. In marketing, of course, we see there is a absolutely big change. Most of the people have moved to the online model. We're engaging to the students online through web. The physical seminars have taken the, you know, we have moved into the online part as such. So yes, we are all leveraging those platforms. We are leveraging the other edtech companies as such. We've been using Extra Edge as one of the main ways for engaging and nurturing the leads, what we have. And if you ask me about, is there any change in the mindsets of parents? I think no. I think that it typically yet remains the same. The objective of a student to come and join the course yet remains the same. Why he chooses a particular institution also does not change now.
Sure.
Only maybe what has changed is the location. So when Pune was one of the hottest location for a student to come, maybe the parents are a bit reluctant when they saw that Pune is leading in the COVID cases. So that could be a little bit of a swing, maybe first time ever in the history of Pune, what has been seen. But overall, I think the mindset and the thinking are absolutely the same.
Correct. So I hear three things, Sandeep sir, from you. One is that, the second order effect is that the importance of being physically in the classroom is something parents and students are longing for. Leveraging technology for various aspects in digital is very obvious, but it needs to be leveraged properly. And third, what you are saying, that there is no fundamental mindset change in the minds of the parents and the students, right? So these are the three key big takeaways. So moving on to, Aman sir. So Aman, 1.5 years back, I heard you on a similar panel where, it was heartening to see you educating people that still in education, near about more than 50% of the spend is still from conventional print, PR, radio, television, unlike what we see that the digital spend to it. So, and I was fascinated. I was one of the listeners in the crowd. I was listening to you. Has that changed? And if yes, why? And if no, then why not? Or is there a shift in needle, what you see at, at LPU? So,
Yeah, Abhishek, thank you for reminding me of that particular event.
Yeah, I vividly remember that. Yes.
So, one thing clear, yes, if the question is that if the education universities and institutions have really changed to the digital media, yes, and I think COVID has really pushed it or accelerated it at like, I don't know, 100 or 1,000 times. I mean, I see that there were, and I think there was no option actually. The print media was completely stopped. I mean, they were not, the newspaper were not getting delivered. I mean, unfortunate, frankly speaking, but it was not being delivered. And there were a lot of people who were considering it to be a taboo to touching a newspaper. So I think when the distribution model kind of broken up, so there was no choice but to go to the digital media. And that was an obvious choice. So it has accelerated it 100,000 times. I mean, previously, if we were competing with, say, 100 universities on the Google search, now we were competing with, say, 5,000 or 10,000 universities and colleges on Google search. So I think it has accelerated it. Not good for institutions because there's competition and Google is one big killer. that makes you pay for a lot of things. Maybe for your own. The worst is when you have to pay for your own brand keyword, and because everybody's kind of bidding for your keyword. So I think it has accelerated it, and it was the need of the hour, and it should be the need of the hour because you can evaluate the performance of the campaigns,
Yeah.
and it's much efficient manner. Digital media is much efficient manner to reach out to our target audience, who's anyways sitting on a digital platform most of the time.
Right, right. So what would be the ratio? I mean, I would not leave you without a number, right? So has a offline or conventional moved below 50% by your, I mean, it's more of a heuristic, or what your thought?
Much below than 50%.
Much below 50. Okay,
Much below
great, great. Okay, interesting. I think that's heartening to see. Moving to, Mr. Khosla, right? So the Sholini University has a pioneer in patents and research in that case. But one of the unique things about Sholini, what I have understood while we have interacted is that students generally come from Himachal, from Uttarakhand, from Punjab, and that region in area. So there's a sense of hyper locality in terms of outreach and outbound, right? So during this, while this whole year unfolded and things like that, what are your top learnings for universities where students are coming from the neighboring 3 and 4 states, right? Are you seeing some change, some seismic change, or there are moreover no change, but it's just got delayed? So what are your top observations or learnings, as we call it, during this admission season, which is still going and which unfolded?
So first of all, thank you, Abhishek. I think it's lovely to see you again, and lovely to see you nice and smiling. I think when you came on campus, you were a little harried trying to sell your product. Lovely to see you, and lovely to see many other panelists. We've spoken many times together. Hello, Dr. Rai. Lovely to see you again. I'm going to break down your question into 2 parts. And I know the admissions part is where you focus on. So we'll talk about admissions, my experience in that. But I'd also like to spend a minute or so on learnings, because that's also very important.
Absolutely.
Search, which I think is also very important. So I'll spend a minute each on each one of them. So first on admissions, it's been a spectacular year for us. I mean, we've sort of hit the ball outside the park. We're up 50% from last year in applications. So that's what we measure, because admissions is the wrong number according to us. It's really the applications that you get, and then of course, what's your app to admit ratio. So we are up 50% on applications, and suddenly the whole world is ours, in a sense that historically, like you rightly said, we were very geographically, intentionally very located, but suddenly through digital, we've been able to sort of, so 50% of applications are actually outside the core zone of Sholini this year.
Wow.
And it's coming largely because our ability to take our message out, saying that we are deeply a research university. Anyone who wants to do that type of work, we become a preferable university for them. So I think that's the first thing, that suddenly technology brings in a new paradigm. It brings in disruption, and we believe it's only going to become deeper and deeper. I'll give another example in terms of outreach. So historically, we were not very good at outreach. We were very shy. We did outreach only within Himachal. I started a program called Ideas That Matter, where we started talking to teachers of schools in the country. So I've personally done 500 webinars over the last 6 months. We have touched 150,000 teachers, 150,000 teachers across in these 6 months. We've brought in 5 Nobel Prize winners in these Ideas That Matter. So we basically, it's not me who's talking. The whole idea behind Ideas That Matter was, can we connect inspiring people to school teachers? Could not have been possible, without technology. Just not impossible, actually. We could have probably done 30 schools, 50 schools. I'll give another example. We used to run a inter-school quiz. While we used to call it national, it was pretty much regional, because it had the top 20 schools between Haryana, Punjab, Himachal. This year we ran India's largest inter-school quiz. We had 450 schools participate in our inter-school quiz. And that's the type of stuff you can do with technology, guys. You can't do it with outside of technology. So that's, I think, the first thing. I think the fundamental question is that the whole admissions process of educational institutions is going to get completely disrupted. And my challenge to you, Abhishek, is that you have to bring down the cost of acquisition of a student from 30,000 rupees or 25,000 rupees to 2,500 rupees. It happened in the life insurance industry, by the way. I don't know if you guys understand disruption that happened there because the regulator said, no way, we're not going to give you that premium. It came down, and that's what's going to happen. So my target next year is to go 3 times apps, and I have to bring down the cost of acquisition to 1/3 what the cost of acquisition is today, because the current cost of acquisition is not sustainable, and we're taking away from the students when it comes to the money. Whatever we spend, why should it go to Google or whatever? We guys have to figure it out, and we with your help, Abhishek. So that's the first. I think the thing is about delivery and learning, and the story is the same. Again, that's a fundamental question we have to ask ourselves. There are 2 sets of students, the high-touch students and low-touch students. And everyone doesn't want a Harvard degree, right? Not the question you have to ask yourself is, why can't we deliver a very high-quality product at $500, $700, right? Including on campus. And I'll give a small example over here. Every classroom of every university in the world is different. It looks and feels different. Dr. Rai's classroom, he might have some 100 classroom at UPS, and I can tell you 30 of them will be different. All my classrooms are different. LPO will have a different classroom. How the heck will we do value engineering? And how will we bring cost structures down if we don't bring value engineering into the way we deliver? Everyone has a different way to deliver it. So we are going to bring in, I think, value engineering and cost structures and bring efficiency and efficacy, and technology will help do that. Again, you can bring in the best teachers using technology, and of course, the world will be blended. My hypothesis is on admissions, 90 to 95% is going to become digital, if it already not is. For us, it is 95%, guys. We did not spend any money on print or whatever we were doing earlier. And I think it will not happen in the future. Within learning, I think it's going to be a 70-30 or a 65-35 blend. And finally, research. That's where the beauty comes in. I don't know whether you guys know that 90% of capacity of research is underutilized in the world, 90%. But let's look at the value chain of research. It starts by hypothesis development. You develop a hypothesis. Build on that, you then develop the experiment. What experiment I'm going to do? Then someone does the experiment. You collect the data, you analyze the data, and then you write a research paper. That's the value chain. Doing the experiment is the lowest part of the value chain of research. Is the lowest.
Right.
So doing research with Stanford and Oxford, they do the heavy lifting of the experiment. They've got all those big, experiments. We don't have to do it. We use our brain power. Dr. Rai and Shulini are planning to do work together, and that's exactly the way we plan to do it together. So our research productivity has gone up 300% since COVID. I'm not joking. And we have completely thrown the ball outside the park. On citation index in QS, we are the #1 university in India, and we are very small. And I know the IITs and all find me arrogant when I say these statements, and they'll say, how can you do it? We don't believe your numbers, but that's right. Overall research, we are #2 in the country after IISc Bangalore. Unbelievable things. How did we do it? Technology, guys, collaborations, and using all of this, all of you can become world beaters. And that's my thought to all of you. Let's use technology. And let's be the heck out of the Harvards of the world, because the future is not with Harvard. The future is with innovative, disruptive universities. Thank you.
I think the heartening message that I see, which probably some of the people who have joined it, around 102 people, that even if you were hyper local pre-COVID, I think technology allows you that pervasiveness to magnify it with the right intent and with the right execution. So I think that's a very core answer. I move to Dr. Rai, to you. Dr. Rai, UPS is like a name to reckon with, a leader in petroleum studies, and you have a gamut of courses. So do you share the same view that for you this year, when the parents and students are coming to you, or you are discovering them or touching base with them, the admission team, what has been your learning, and is there any behavioral change you are seeing in terms of their intake, their optionality to choose a course or things to it? So would love to hear from you. What are you seeing, sir?
Thanks very much. At the outset, I would like to thank Asma to give me this opportunity to connect up with all of you, and I'm excited. As you mentioned, that it's really nice to connect with fellow educators, and fortunately, these platforms bring us. That has been one part of technology. I think we couldn't have met our colleagues as many times as we have done. Sandeep and I, we used to live in the same city. We had not met as many times as we have met in last 1 month, you know. And our partner Atul from Shulini, we have met 3, 4 times on the web. So I think there is I echo whatever my fellow speakers have said so far. I think digital is the way to go. Digital now actually is the only way to go, frankly speaking, because it brings a lot of advantages. These have been already touched upon. Cost was touched upon very nicely by Atul. Uh, we have found the similar thing. So I would also like to share with you all that using the same phrase as Atul has used, that we could also hit it outside the park. Uh, this time, last year's admissions, our targets, we have already exceeded by about 20%, you know. So, and also in number of applications, registrations, etc., also have gone up by 30-40%. Now, this has happened because we could reach to our students much better. We could explain things, as you were saying, do that. So we also had developed an app. It was a self-service kind of an app. With the app, the student could actually, firstly, the app itself guided the student to start scrolling down as to which are the programs. The student could actually choose to discuss with any of the deans or the faculty. Not only that, we used to have times slotted, arranged for even experts, because the youngsters have a lot of queries in their mind. So since they could make those informed choices, and that is the reason we found that the cancellations are reduced. Though we were expecting that because of the so much of uncertainties, the government kept it the moving target 30th November, then 31st December now. And as Sandeep is saying, Maharashtra is allowing him admissions only now. Even in these circumstances, we were expecting that we might have a lot of cancellations, fallouts, but that has not happened. And that has not happened mainly because the students have made a informed choice after comparing, like how they say policybazaar.com पे जाइए, अपने आप compare करिए और फिर देखिए आपके लिए कौन सी चीज अच्छी है. The students had this what media has given them is that freedom, like what we have done, all our fellow colleagues have done. So the students can actually go to all these and then understand. So that was one part of it. The information is easily available and the connect has become much better. But also what was said right in the beginning about by when Aman also said that Sandeep also said about the physical campus part of it. So the students would actually ask as to, how does the campus look like? And now, today, the technology has it with VR, AR, you can possibly simulate those conditions. So we had in 7 cities in the country, we had actually created that kind of a simulation, which is easily done with the set of cameras and, the 3D effect one can be produced. So without coming to UPS, you can actually get the feeling of UPS going to that particular center.
Absolutely.
Now, this is something which I coming from the shipping, we used to do those 3D walkthroughs, whereas before manufacturing the ship, we could actually see as to how the compartments will look like. So I think this more and more of things, now more and more of behavioral aspects also will be as the technology is moving towards that, the sensory computers are coming. So I think this more and more, and I agree with when Atul says it has to be 95%. In fact, there should not be any reason why admission, every aspect. We could do placements online. We could do internships online. We are doing labs online now. And we combined with Shulini, as Atul mentioned, that they are very high on research. So we actually combined with them. We're combining with IIT Delhi, IIT Roorkee. It's basically, I want to do an experiment. I need not be physically there. Somebody can do it at that place. The data can be served back to me and I can draw inferences. So in delivery, it is not just the classes, every aspect can be done, even research, as Atul mentioned. So I think technology is here to stay. And comparisons are here when you compare televised media versus print media versus digital media, the costs and the reach and the performance is highly in the favor of the social media. I mean, future lies with Hotstars and Netflixes is already is there. I don't know who will go to the cinema halls after 3 months, 6 months or so. So therefore, I think the technology is here to stay, and we have to use more and more technology. The experiences have been very nice for all over. the faculty, the students, the parents, teachers. I mean, as it was said that it was thrusted on us, but now in fact, faculty are enjoying. In fact, when I ask them, I want to call for a meeting. So tomorrow I'm calling for a meeting. 90% asks are online or offline. So they're very comfortable now to go online. So I think social media, admissions, delivery, both are here to stay, and we should leverage this technology and environment more and more. Thank you.
So actually, Doctor, I was on a panel with Dr. Tabriz, and I think one of the things that were mentioned there that you can show the AR, VR or a video things, but I think that will prime the student to finally physically come to the campus. So that's more like a facilitator, which will lead to what Dr. Pachpande said, that it will allow them to see that and take a leap of faith that probably now we need to go to the campus. So it will be more like a priming in that case. And that's my next question to Dr. Tabriz is that, Tabriz, we have spoken last when we were on the panel last time. So what has been your top 3 learnings at GD Goenka? And I think the audience would love to know that what have you seen, in not only in their admissions, but also as far as law is concerned there,
In fact, we are one of the market leaders in the quality education, and we are trying very hard to provide the option for those who want to go to the foreign universities for the quality education. And what I feel that the COVID has given the opportunity for all the technology lovers that please try to provide the best options. And we have seen that how we are going to survive in the COVID period. Just see that if it was not the internet, no mobile phone, and then how we could survive in this COVID period. So entire survival is because of technology, because of internet, also these platforms. But now we also realize the importance. If you go back to 1995, a lot of people were totally against about the use of technology in the classroom, use of PPT or use of multimedia in the classroom. They're saying that those who are not the good quality teachers, they would try to take the help of technology and try to teach through PPT or multimedia. But now we have realized that how good is that to use technology and a good ending about the classroom to engage the classroom. Because if you just give plain lectures, what I feel that hardly 20% will be engaged. But you try to use multimedia in the classroom, you can try to use the entire group in the course engagement. This way, you can raise the quality of education by blended learning. But also, I'm happy that the Mr. Khosla has very nicely mentioned about that how we are going to utilize in a very big way this technology, whether it is admissions or placement or lab. Sunil also mentioned very nicely that how AR, VR is can be used for the showcasing the campus and also the facilities. Because earlier days, if you are a kind of the global university or you are a university which is nationally spread, it was challenging to engage the student to see what is the facility in the campus. Because nowadays, you have to provide the facilities. It's very one of the important aspect of the learning process. The playgrounds, your classroom standards, okay, your laboratories, your library standards and all. So through ER and VR, we can showcase that how we are. But definitely that Mr. Sandeep mentioned about that mindset. I think mindset has gone a totally change because the deciding factor earlier were mostly the physical infrastructure. But nowadays, all the parents student will ask, what is the technical infrastructure? How strong you are in the quality of the journals? Whether you are having the kind of the remote access of the software in the library, or whether the you have very good platform. For example, that I know very well that the UPS was pioneer in the having the Blackboard in the very beginning when it started in 2013. This has given the extra edge to these kind of universities who has experimented technology. This way, I think now everybody is experimenting technology, and this is the only way to go ahead. And also, it will be great support to reduce the cost, whether it is admission, whether it is a placement or internship, or even inviting people to take the lectures. A lot of people have mentioned regarding the engaging the good professors from the foreign institute to share their thoughts. Also, we are very active nowadays. We are trying to engage those professors who are part of the top 200 universities in the world, and they are sharing through webinar of their great learning. That was not possible because of the lack of technology. So these are a lot of supports given by the technology. We can bring the best teachers in the classroom, and also we can reduce the cost. Now we can engage the entire university or college to attend the lecture. Earlier days, because there's no support to have more than 200 kind of capacity or 500 capacity, because very few have the kind of the auditorium for the lectures. But through the online medium, we can have by one faculty can engage a lot of students. So cost-wise, even delivery cost, and also the quality regarding the research orientation, we can have a lot of quality journals, and also we can engage the faculty to do quality research. whether it is a kind of laboratory work or kind of the citation and all. So what I see, there are a lot of blending happening with the technology, and it will be a only way to go ahead. So thank you very much.
So I think moving on to the part that as far as admission and outreach is concerned, what do we mean by technology? So there are three stakeholders. There are digital marketing teams, there are the publishers, and then there are technology players like the admission technology players and things like that. So my question to you, Aman, that very sharply, right? What does a good expectation looks like for a university leader like yours, for your digital marketing team? It could be internal, it could be external, from the publishers, right? And from the admission technology providers. What does a great expectation looks like, you know?
So Abhishek, I mean, Lovely Professional University is the largest university in the country. I mean, we have some 30,000 plus students studying in a single campus. And unlike other universities, our students are coming from all across India. I mean, 70% of our students are coming from beyond North. So now it has come, yeah, it's almost like 70% of students are coming beyond North. And 8% of our students coming from international markets. So we have close to 3,500 plus international students coming in the campus. I mean, this is amazing with respect to any of the Indian university. I mean, this kind of diversity is not there. I assume it's not there in many of the university campuses, and it's kind of unheard when we speak to various regulators, even with the UGC and somebody. I mean, when Pranab Mukherjee, the late Pranab Mukherjee, when President of India came to the university, he said, "I've not seen this diversity anywhere in the country," and I'm very happy that Lovely Professional Universities taking this diversity so seriously and building it upon it. So why I wanted to talk about it, because that's what we are as an LPU. We don't really believe in the numbers and just say that, okay, we have to achieve these many numbers. Of course, we are looking at a very holistic approach towards our admission process, as well as the kind of things that we want to do in the classrooms, and then taking that thing back. Of course, I mean, if you are the kind of application that LPU get is among the top 3 in the country. I mean, after VIP or the kind of application that we get is that volume of application, and it's about how you choose those applications. But what we have done is that we decided that we're going to go to the whole of country in one particular way, and that is what we expect from our and that is only possible if we have the right visibility into the various campaigns that we have set up, how we are spending the money, what is being delivered, and how those the cost per leads are coming into, the lead volume is coming in, PPL is coming in, and how they are getting converted in the later half of the funnel. So I think that visibility is something which I really expect from a technology partner like Extra Edge. I mean, if Extra Edge coming to me and said, okay, we can help you reduce the cost. I said, I don't only want reduction of the cost, I want more visibility. So I can just see that I'm not getting all the leads from one particular state, because just because UP is farming for me and you're gonna suck all my budget in UP, and that's not what my purpose is. I want a diversity in the campus. I want to see that how the other markets are really delivering, giving me that visibility. And the same thing I want with the breadth of my programs. I don't want that engineering should become my only program to be focused upon. I mean, engineering is the biggest program in the university, but I mean, management program is humongous, huge. I mean, we get the kind of application we get is really, really huge. And that's what we want to aim at. And we are using various platforms. I mean, Google and Facebook is one part of it. The way you're using LinkedIn and other platforms, something which you want to leverage upon it and see that, okay, probably the cost per lead is more, cost per application is more, but is it really helping me to reach to the right target audience which I'm going forward to? So I think it's about the rest, the breadth of geography, the breadth of programs, and the how my budgets are being spent, and how the conversion costs coming. So I think if we are able to see this whole funnel properly, that will really help me do things better with respect to the marketing. And I don't want to touch upon the other topics, because I assume that this webinar is about marketing. So unlike other people, I don't touch anything else but happy to discuss further things.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the things that you clearly mentioned is clear visibility of a dollar spent, right? So there is what we call as ROAS, return on ad spend. So the ROAS should be very, very clean, and it should be very palpable in front of your eyes, every single dollar spent. So coming to Sandeep sir, to you. So, Dr. Sandeep, for you, expectation from a publisher, marketing, like next year, for this year, I mean, this year is still continuing, I gather, right? But next year, what does success look like from your partners in technology, like the publishers, like the digital marketing teams of yours, or the technology providers? Very shortly, what is your what does success look like for you next year?
Uh, well, see, when I think when we look at the marketing aspect of all the institutions, obviously this has seen a change. Everyone is going on to the digital platforms, because even if you look at news, the way the news is consumed itself has changed. So the print is something which may not work out, and most of the people I think on this panel have said that they have reduced the spend on print, and almost we have also reduced the spend on print, and the focus is fully on the digital platforms. Now, when we talk of digital platforms, this is where, today you see in the conversation, people talking about the cost of acquisition, the cost of leads. I don't think this was too much talked a few years earlier. But
Sure.
because the focus is now moved towards digital, we can measure the cost of acquisition. We can measure the return on investment of a particular activity which we have done digitally. And I think with this coming in, that's where the institutions are going to be focusing on. And when we talk of our partners, it is not just about, we have to create an online reputation for the brand. And it is not just about making the posts. See, I've seen many institutions, they have lakhs of followers onto the Facebook pages. But if you look at a post, it hardly has 5 or 10 likes, or there is no engagement on those posts. So what is very important, if you look at expectations from institutions regarding digital marketing partners, is going to be how to help them nurture those leads and how to engage with the leads and the target audience. That is going to be definitely the key what institutions would be looking for. So it's not just like a newspaper, or where we just put up an ad and it reaches people, but we need that particular user to be engaged with you. We need him to be seeing what he wants to see, and his questions being answered using the digital media platforms as such.
No,
Radio and TV may be something what yet people are looking at,
Mhm.
but print, I don't think so. Most people would be looking at it.
Right. I think you make a very interesting point on engagement, right? That how do you keep on engaging through that content? And engagement is very obvious. Either you have engagement or you do not have engagement. There's no thing that's between as such. So for you, Dr. Rai, at at UPS, right? So as far as the engagement with the prospects are concerned during that student journey, a prospect journey to become a student, what you are doing, and what are you seeing a different way to engage with the students? Of course, you can do via Facebook post, an Instagram post, or a Google ad, but are these what you're doing, or is there a kind of a change that you're doing this year? What are you doing this year?
Yeah, so what we did this year, I can share with my colleagues here and
Yep.
everyone on the panel, is that we designed a specific program for engagement with the prospects.
Mhm.
So those people who have just expressed their intention to register with us. So we had a 1 week program. In this 1 week program was a combination of scholastic pieces, fun pieces, little competitions, some kind of social engagement. It was a week-long program, 3 hours per day. And the students were logging on, all those who had our number were logging on. And we, of course, had some people from industry coming and talking, some people from media coming and talking, you know. So every 3 hour, there has to be one hour. 1 hour would be an engagement for by a personality to come and speak, to interact with the students. 1 hour was some information being provided. 1 hour used to be just fun. They could just chat with each other and all that. And we did find that we did take a snap poll on that, and the students, all those who had engaged, 95% of them confirmed their registrations with us, which means this kind of what was just being mentioned by Sandeep about this engagement is the power of this kind of platform. That see, you can engage at will, you can engage with whosoever you want, and you can engage for whatever time you want, and you can choose. In fact, there also we had given options. After that, there were some competitions which people chose. Some of them chose to take part. There were some small prizes, that you will get in that. So I think that, and the period was little long, because what happened once the government announced that the admissions have been now can go on up to 30th November. And we were at that point of time in early September. So now there were good almost 3 months. What will the student do for those 3 months? So one is there was so much of uncertainty, which the youth was anyway facing. Firstly, in any case, at 18-year-old, 19-year-old is kind of confused because the kind of information bombardment that takes place at him, and then the peer pressures, you know, decision made, okay, I'm going and taking BTech mechanical, or I'm taking BTech electrical. The fellow peer comes and says, "Arey kya kar raha hai? Mar jayega. Usme to job hi nahi milta hai." And then suddenly the whole cycle goes. So in fact, we could even analyze the student behavior or their decision-making behavior, and that's what is our another expectation from the media companies is to actually now with heuristically you can actually plot the behavior of the decision-making behavior so that we can help the students so the right students go to the right place. After all of us are doing a very good job, but the person reaches the right place. So I think the upper end of the analysis part of from the media is what is my expectation going forward.
Dr. This engagement was happening online using webinars.
Yes.
Right?
No, it was proper arrangement. So there were about 180 students joined from us. So we first did it for business and law. So there were about 180 prospects of business who had joined for a week and about 110 from law. And then out of those 150 who had joined, 130 odd figure actually confirmed they're still with us. So I think that engagement period does help, wherein they could ask questions, we could encourage them. And some who's like CMD of Volvo addressed the students, told them exactly what is it that they could look for in the life. And we also could showcase them as to how different things we can provide. For example, we are providing School of Life for students, which NEP is talking about the cultural and other inputs. So we have got about 40 credits. Now, this is something which we could engage with them and tell them much better. So it was the engagement was at all levels, intellectual as well as fun levels. Yeah.
Absolutely. I think, moving on to, Dr. Khosla, to you, it has deeply registered the cost of acquisition, by the way. I mean, just as a matter of fact, it has deeply registered in me. We'll certainly come back to you on that. So Coursera, Upgrad, Eruditus, you're smiling. So I think you know what I'm going to ask you, right? So a student today, in COVID, I read a statistic that the EdTech user base doubled from 45 million to 90 million in the first 4 months, right? Forget the engagement and whether repeated classes or not, but it doubled, right? The user base doubled, right? Now today I'm seeing that universities are either collaborating. So Upgrad, Coursera, Eruditus, they're collaborating to launch courses, and with Dr. Sitaraman allowing the universities to take online courses or distance learning programs and things like that, right? How do you see this from a perspective of students' options being diversified? So I can go and also take a course there, or I could take a collaborative course and do it from home, or I can go to Shulini campus and do it from there. Will it be competition? Will it be a hybrid model? How will it impact the choice of a student? Is the question to you.
Abhishek, thank you. First of all, thank you for showing us the journey for admissions and using digital. I think you were the ones who showed us the light, extra edge. So thank you for that. I've always believed, Abhishek, that education, if there's one last fortress which is left, which was not touched by technology and digital, that was education. Lots and lots of holy cows starting from regulation. You also need to realize that any industry that's highly regulated is the last to innovate. And that's, by the way, true for financial services. Fintech hit way later than compared to others. But then technology and tsunamis cannot be stopped, however strong the regulator is. And that's happening now with education. So that's the first thing. I think the fundamental question we have to ask ourselves is, why is education delivered the way it is, and who defined it? For example, we have 3-year degrees, 4-year degrees, 2-year degrees. Did God come and say that it should be a 3-year degree, that the world follows that? The answer is no. I think somewhere our programs were designed for the industrial revolution that happened. So if you look at the universities of the world, they were programmed for the industrial revolution, and that's why they created these programs. You also need to realize, Abhishek, that why did we have what I call big fat universities like Oxford or Harvard, or some, by the way, a lot of promoters are very excited telling that they've spent 1,000 crores on campuses in India. They've got very large campuses. The reason why they had large campuses was because when you need to get people together to create knowledge, and the only way to get people together in good old days in the Industrial Revolution was actually by getting them together. But today you don't have to do that. You can use technology by still getting them together. So you'll see a very different environment coming up. It's going to take time, but the future is going to be where the fundamental question of 3-year, 4-year, 5-year degrees, I think, will be first questioned. Why should that exist? Why should not I, as a student, study 6 months at Shulini, as an example, uh, get the feel of the campus? And we heard everyone saying campus is very important. Very good. Get the feel of the campus, make your friends, then spend 6 months at UPES. They're very good at computer science. Get that experience. The next 6 months in the industry, and just create their own program. So it's going to become modular. I think that's 5 to 7 years away, but you never know when it happens, by the way. That's the great thing about technology. Yeah. Disruption happens very, very fast, right? So I think programs will become very modular. I principally do not like MOOCs. While we are a Coursera on-campus university now, and we have a global tie-up with Coursera, we are global partners with them. But MOOCs is a monologue. There is a one-way traffic, and that's why the penetration of MOOCs was very limited. The transaction is not happening between the student and the teacher. So I personally do not like MOOCs to that extent, and I don't think MOOCs will go out and change the way education happens. It's going to be a synchronous education delivered through technology and using lots and lots of different ways. So the point I'm trying to make over here, Abhishek, is that expect education to become modular. The new education policy is already talking about it. From a regulatory perspective, a lot of states have already signed. Himachal has already signed for it, for example. They've said 100% implementation of NEP. So modularity is going to come in. Secondly, students will definitely look at bringing in and lowering down the cost of education in a very sizable way. Forget the Harvards and Oxfords. People do not go to Harvard for great education only. They go there for the brand and the network. Let's be very clear about it. I've done that too. It's not because, everything is hunky-dory. So we will have to start thinking about fundamentally reducing cost structures, becoming very flexible in the way we deliver. One last thing I'd like to say is, who said that only one instructor should give 1 semester or 1 quadrimester of courses? Mm-hmm. We have to break down our curriculum down to what I call the least common denominator. And that's the only way, you'll see a lot of flexibility coming in and modularity coming in. So there'll be it's very difficult to do, by the way, Abhishek.
Yeah.
I call it the Toyota model. So you have 2 models that you can pursue. You can pursue a model where you say, I will build a 3,000 computer science program and all of them will pretty much do 90% the same. I'll bring my cost down. Or there's the Ford Model T model, right? Or you could say, I will do something very interesting. I will do the Toyota model. I will create platforms. So I will run 200 programs where 70% of them is sort of common and 30% is different. You'll see a lot of that flexibility coming in, and through technology, you can measure students' performances, you can measure their engagement. Your thing, the way you run the university is way, way, way easier. I'll give a small example again. I just went through a NAC resubmission. I mean, it's a nightmare. And I've given a mandate to my technology team that guys go out and, sort it out from a technology perspective, because otherwise you're wasting everyone's time just collecting that data, which is existing in all different parts of the world. So technology coming in administration, technology coming in learning, and modularity will become big. I am very tempted to talk about admissions because I love it. You will have to give me 1 more minute. So I'm going to give 4 pillars for admission I'm going to use next year. First pillar is what I call FTB. FTB is follow the BJP. Do what the BJP does. They're very savvy, right? What does the BJP do? They don't sell BJP. They sell individuals. You'll never see a BJP post. You'll see a Mr. Modi post, a Mr. Nadda post, a Mr. Shah post, another post, right? So make 20 of your faculty members winners, for example. And it's free. Social media is free. You don't need to spend on it if you do it that way. Second is, please don't spend money on Google. I don't know, someone said Google is very expensive. Invest in SEO. Have 200 people in Aman, you have the power to it. Have 200 people in SEO and pass over your frivolous leads to us. Yeah, we are hungry. Why do you have to give it to Google and make them rich? Let's help you a unicorn, right? Give it at 10% of the price, but invest in SEO. I think that's the way to go. Heavily invest in analytics through Abhishek, and that's one tip to you.
Yeah.
I do a lot of work in fintech. I can tell you, education, we are not even 5%. I've said this to you before also.
Yeah.
We're not 5% as savvy as fintech because there was no competition. You know, counselors ke through kaam karte the. Analytics. Bring huge amount of analytics into your admissions. And finally, get engagement. Use a lot of AI for engagement. So
Yeah.
to me, these are the 4 pillars: FTB, SEO, analytics, and AI engagement. And
I think people are making notes, Dr. Khosla. So, I think these are frameworks, right? It's like I was in engineering learning the, 3-tier architecture of building software programs, right? So I think it was on a very similar line. So moving to very quickly to Dr. Tabrez, right? So one of the things where I would want to circle to all of you is that engagement with the prospect becomes very critical. And we have mediums like emails or SMSs and things, but now there are new mediums like, you have WhatsApp as a critical and important medium. You have Instagram as a critical and important medium. So, have you identified or are you leveraging these new modes of engagement with the prospect? I mean, TikTok could be probably, again, it's banned, but then these new age channels on which your student is sitting currently, right? What are you doing about it? Are you doing something about it? And that's a question for all of you. So I'll circle to all of you, but starting with Dr. Tabrez with you.
I think we are heavily dependent on the WhatsApp. That what we have done, we have made the small group with the kind of the mentors, and then we are trying to very quickly, coordinate with all the current students. And regarding the future students, I think very nicely mentioned by Mr. Khosla that regarding the analytics, very important to try to match up that what they want and what we are going to offer. Because I do not believe in too much marketing, because just to try to try to attract them and provide something, that is not good. Try to attract and then match what they want. So this way, I think it is a good support by the technology that they will be able to really track what is there in you and whether it is matching their aspirations or not. In that case, once they are in taking the admission, then also we are wanted how they're actually performing, how they're behaving, whether they're happy or not happy, what are the challenges. Also, this way, what we are doing, we have a lot of tracking the use of technology and trying to solve the problems very quickly. Because what I feel that mostly we before admission we do a lot of investment to attract, to bring in the system. Once they are in the system, we take for granted. Because if you really satisfy the current student in the campus, because the words of mouth, the progress is very fast in the education sector. So if you're going to satisfy the current student by use of technology, I think they're going to provide the words of mouth, is bigger support for the new year admissions. Instead of depending on the lot of investment in the marketing, we can satisfy the current student and they will be trying to promote yourself. And it will be a kind of one is good statement by the current student will be deciding factor by anybody trying to take the admission.
Right.
So we are also using a lot of technology for try to attract the student, also satisfy the current student. I was just quoting in my last statement regarding the reducing cost in the admissions and also marketing and the placement, because we can use this cost to invest in the a lot of good quality faculty, good quality content in the library, and the research and development. Because all the private universities, they focus a lot on the admissions and placement, but they forget the very important area where quality lies. And that's why we are not able to come in 200 top universities in the world. That's my view.
So, thank you. I think we are coming to the end of the session. So I have one question for all of you. Probably you can take 30 seconds to 45 seconds to answer, right? If we meet the same time next year, right, with all of you on the same panel, okay, what does admission success looks like? The answer is, of course, all seats should be filled and everything. But then I would want to hear from all of you for around 30-45 seconds, starting with Aman, from you, right? What does success look like for LPU as far as admission and outreach are concerned for next year? You're mute. Yeah.
So I think for me, the success would, of course, not the number of seats. I mean, that's never been a problem with LP Touchwood. So that's never been a criteria. I think for us, the success would be the kind of students that we are reaching out. Ideally, we would like to reach out to the students with a higher JE score and higher CAT score with respect to the engineering and the management, and with respect to the other program, better scores in the grade 12th and thing. And I think one more important thing is not only about what is the intake, what is the output of the students. So I would say that admission would also be seen in the next 4 years, not even 1 year or 3 years, when the students are actually graduating out. And my average salary package, which is already very high with respect to the education institutions, goes at least 3 times or so. I mean, that would be my success. It's not only about the intake, but how my students come out of the university.
Brilliant. Dr. Sandeep, success in admissions.
Yes, again, it's not the number game at all. It's about getting the right student for the right course. And I think that is very important for the success of the student as well as of the institution. And digital platforms are, playing a major role in enabling that. And I've always been talking to parents that it's not important whether you're getting your son into the best institution. What you have to check is whether that institution is the best for your child.
Correct.
Brilliant. So getting the right fit of the student for the right course, I think that is what I would define the success in admissions.
Dr. Rai.
In addition to what my colleagues have already said about the quality and the right fit of the students, I would also look for success in terms of diversity. Diversity not only in terms of gender, but diversity in terms of regions and in diversity in terms of aspirations. Some of them who would like to become Nobel Prize winners. Some of them who would like to set up their own corporations. That's what I'm looking for from admissions.
Absolutely. Great. I think very, very appropriately put. So moving to, Dr. Khosla, I mean, what does success look like? You have 30 seconds, sir.
I'm a numbers man, Abhishek. I apologize to everyone. My strategy is very simple. I call it the 44 strategy. 4-time apps at 1/4 the cost of app. As plain and simple as that. I have to touch 400,000 students through direct outreach and touch at least 1,000 schools on one-on-one. That's the ambition.
I think, Dr. Khosla, people need to know you come from McKinsey. So you are a man of numbers and precise numbers, right? So you can be an academic, but the precision of numbers will always be there, right? Always. So,
If you things don't get delivered. So I believe that it's important to have targets and of course have creative measures too. So I think what everyone has said makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Dr. Tabrez, I mean, finally, what does success of admission look like, sir, for this year?
Rightly mentioned by Dr. Sunil Roy that I want a good mix and diversified student from different parts of the country and also different groups. And also they'll be motivated and very creative, innovative, and they'll be passionate. If they're passionate, then they can do wonders.
Absolutely. So I think, before I hand over to Chandan, for all those in the audience, I think you must be education institute owners or associated with admissions or marketing and outreach. I think one of the things that has come out very clearly here is that measuring becomes very critical and important, and people at the top, at the management, need to have a pulse on it. A. B, digital is obvious, but has to be leveraged with the right intent. And C is that, the core, going to the college and physically going and meeting the faculty and the network will always remain. And finally, inclusion, diversity, and finally fulfilling the employability outcomes as a function of the quality of the students that come in is very critical. That should not be lost in the number game. So these are the few things that I have gathered from, our esteemed panelists today. I thank, all four of you. I think I always personally enjoy to have these conversations, and now I'm able to do that. So I'm probably lucky and privileged, and always a pleasure. And before I hand over to Chandan for probably the thank regards and that. So then we have questions. We can take a few of them.
Abhishek, I'd like to mention that this has been a very, very enriching discussion. One of the best I've had. So you're not just a great technologist, but you're also a great moderator. So thank you very much.
Thank you. I think some of the things I did in engineering colleges are coming handy now.
And you ended on the dot.
Yeah. Of course. I think, I was getting hints from Chandan that I need to wrap up. So always a pleasure, and, to speak to all of you, in that case. So I think questions, Chandan, can we take few of them?
Yeah, you may please check the Q&A section and the chats. There are a few questions over there.
Okay. So I think how digital campus education can adapt to online teaching with reference to cyber security like cyberbullying. I think it's out of the context, but I think quickly, would you want to take this, Dr. Khosla, very quickly?
I mean, very, very big issue. My biggest concern is that a lot of people have adopted technology without cybersecurity. Imagine, people hacking into your systems and going out and giving degrees out of the universities. So if you are running an institution, please ensure that you don't buy fly-by-wire technology, ensure that you have enough cybersecurity built in. I think it's very, very, very important, and no one is really talking about it.
Okay. I think there's another question called, is cutting edge technology bridging the education gap in India, or is it just a theory? It's more like a general, it's not a question, it's more like a point of view. I don't know. So probably,
I think creating more gap, because see, you're talking about only 30% that able to buy technology, who are able to really sustain technology. And also it talks about the universities and colleges. If you see about the rural areas and government colleges, nursery schools, they're just wasting the time last 1 year because there's no value addition happening. So it is going to create more gap between the have and nots, and that is wholly about the Indian constitution, about these grand norms and norm theory. So after all efforts, still we are going to have same challenge about the bridging the gap, and this technical challenges because of COVID has made more gaps than the trying to normalize and bridging the gap.
Great. I think Chandan, that's a last question is, do you provide a certificate? That's for you probably. So I would not take that. You do or not. So I think for all of you, I wish you great admission this year. And Dr. Khosla noted the cost of acquisition for everybody. It's in my mind as a technologist. We'll something do about it very soon. Don't worry about it.
Come back with a great proposal, okay?
We all look forward to it.
Great. So Chandan, over to you. Thank you very much.
Yes. So lovely session, Abhishek. So already you got a compliment from Mr. Atul Khosla. So a wonderful moderation done by you, Abhishek. So last two of the sessions, that was an industry speech, but this time, I think the justice to the discussion and with getting the viewpoints from the eminent panelists across the country is great. Actually, we can see in the chat box people praising the speakers, the kind of ideas and inputs which they have implemented in their own institutions, and how that ideas can be discussed in this deliberation, and how it could be useful for the listeners and other participants who are listening over here. So thank you everyone for your engagement over here, for your time over here. And before a formal ending, let me congratulate Sandeep Pachpande sir for the wonderful work being done by your son Aditya Pachpande, the kind of innovation which is bringing to the industry, and the gates and the doors which is opening for the young entrepreneurs to learn. So congratulations to the journey to Aditya Pachpande sir going forward.
I have had the pleasure of having dinner with them in Delhi, and I can tell you he's a very, very sharp kid. I'm like,
just to tell everyone, it is a COVID box, a DIY COVID box, which this 14 years old kid has developed and innovated. So there are so many things. We did a wonderful event, World Student Innovation Summit, where Aditya Pachpande was himself leading the league and telling how innovation can transform the business and young minds. And going forward to Atul Khosla sir, so congratulations to the group for the award which we have just given to and awarded to Ms. Saruj Khosla for the extremely wonderful work which she has been doing, being a woman leader, and we have awarded her as one of the top women leaders in India in education. So congratulations for the wonderful task done by ma'am, sir. So thank you so much everybody for joining us over here. Aman sir, Dr. Sunil Rai, Dr. Tabreed sir. So thank you so much for this session over here.